war with anyone who harms them. Like, that again is a brand new statement from Israel's prime minister. I want to bring in Kimberly Dozier, a longtime national security reporter who has seen a lot of war, and you certainly have been in this region, Kimberly. What are your thoughts and what are you hearing from your sources?
Well, watching this play out, I'm reminded of the first and the second intifadas or uprisings. Both of those started from what seemed like minor incidents at the time. The first one from a car crashing into two vehicles full of Palestinian workers and killing and injuring many. And the second one was sparked off by Ariel Sharon's visit to the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. Of course, the Al-Aqsa Mosque is adjacent to or on top of a very sacred Jewish space. It's the site of the two previous Jewish temples that were destroyed. So that also kicked off a major uprising. It seemed that in this case, what the Hamas fighters are hoping is that through the violent, horrifically successful nature of this attack, they will inspire Palestinians across the West Bank who are angry with the Israeli security forces' treatment, and regional actors will also step in. The risk is that, as we've all been talking all day, saying, Israel will likely invade Gaza in some manner, shape, or form to root out the attackers, to root out the network. If that attack goes too far, as perceived by outside actors, that's when you could see what Israel calls the ring of fire around it attacking. Hezbollah, with its 100,000 plus missiles to the north, in Lebanon, Syrian militants with missiles also supplied by Iran, according to Middle East officials. So Israel could be confronted with attacks on all sides. At this point, it's just internal, but we've got days and weeks of this conflict to play out.
It is 10:44 p.m. in Gaza City. You were looking at a live picture of Gaza City, and as we do, Oren, just again, to come back to what the Israeli Prime Minister just said moments ago, that what we saw today has never been seen in Israel, and we will take mighty vengeance for this black day.
More than 200 Israelis killed in a period of several hours, hundreds, if not more than 1,000 more wounded. In my nearly 6 years there, we were never even close to numbers like that, and that gives you an idea of just how seriously Israel and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu view this. The question, of course, is what is his next step? How does he respond? They've already carried out airstrikes hitting terrorist infrastructure in Gaza. Kim mentioned a ground incursion. I think there are a lot of people who think that's likely, but that's an incredible risk in and of itself. That is difficult urban warfare in one of the most densely populated areas on Earth, where Hamas has the advantage, in Gaza. You are stepping into that and putting your troops into that, where they have a clear advantage, as opposed to in Israel, which we saw this morning, where you're supposed to have the advantage. That's a very difficult decision, and you have to figure out what's your goal there. Are you trying to decapitate Hamas? That too is incredibly difficult to try to accomplish.
Okay, stand by. We're going to sneak in another break. We have a lot more breaking news. We have reporters on the ground getting the latest information, and we're going to bring that to you. We'll be right back.
Your heart is the beat of life. If you have heart failure, entrust your heart to Entresto. Entresto helps improve your heart's ability to pump blood to the body. Don't take Entresto if pregnant. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. Don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or aliskiren, or if you've had angioedema with an ACE or ARB. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high blood potassium. Ask your doctor if Entresto is right for you. If you lived or worked in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina for at least 30 days from August 1953 through December 1987 and have been diagnosed with cancer, neurobehavioral effects, fertility issues, or more, you may qualify for financial compensation. A new law passed by Congress now allows veterans and survivors to seek damages for harm from exposure to contaminated water at Camp Lejeune. Call Saddle Rock Legal Group to discuss your case now. Call 1-800-814-9977.
An important message for America. simple message for anyone over 50 who wants life insurance to help protect their family. You got this. If your health isn't perfect or you're on a fixed income, you may think coverage is hard to get. With Colonial Penn Guaranteed Acceptance Whole Life Insurance, it's easy. If you're between the ages of 50 and 85, you can't be turned down in most states. There's no medical exams, no health questions, no worry about pre-existing conditions. Sound good? The price makes it even better. Options start at $9.95 a month, 35 cents a day. Once insured, your rate is locked in for life. And to make sure this coverage works with your budget, Colonial Penn puts you in charge. You choose the amount of coverage you want and how you'd like to pay. You can even choose the date your payments are due. If you're looking to help your family with final expenses and other bills that you'll leave behind, relax. You've got this. One quick call is all it takes to get free information and the simple form you need to apply. It's fast and it's easy.
Call 1-800-541-8787 for your free information and free beneficiary planner. That's 1-800-541-8787. There's no obligation. That number again is 1-800-541-8787. 1-800-541-8787. Call now.
Sometimes it takes a different approach to see the difference you can make around you. With the Allen University's game-changing flashback format, set your own deadlines and access coursework anytime. Imagine the future differently with Allen University.
Did someone who threatens Putin's power ever die unintentionally in Russia?
I don't think so. He just leaves all this carnage in his wake.
You think he cares about that?
No, he doesn't.
The Source with Caitlin Collins, Monday at 9. I belong here.
You may think I don't fit in.
That I don't look the part.
But to me, curling is more than a sport.
It's my community.
Together, we can sweep away the barriers.
Create spaces where we all belong.
And experience the joy of curling.
I belong here.
We belong here. We unite. And united we curl.
Packed key ingredient clinically researched to help boost your free testosterone levels. To help you feel stronger, leaner, with more energy and drive. More passion, too. Here, try a bottle. And trust me, she'll like it too. Text FIXED to 231231 to get a complimentary sample of Nugenix Total T. Text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our most powerful fat incinerator ever. Absolutely free. That's FIXED to 231231.
I'm Bridget Ingress outside the New York State Courthouse, and this is CNN.
You're looking at live pictures out of Gaza. It is 10:50 p.m. there, and there is the tension there. It's indescribable, as we're hearing from our reporters and others on the ground in that region. We want to give you a better sense of the geography of where things are happening and what is happening. CNN's Oren Lieberman is with us, as is retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Cedric Layton, and they're going to break down where this is unfolding. Oren and Colonel?
Dana, thank you. So, Colonel Layton, let's focus in on what we're looking at, and we can bring up a map here. When we talk about the Palestinian territories, we're generally talking about the West Bank and Gaza, but here we're just focused on Gaza, where Israel controls the sea, the northern border, and the eastern border. How could this have happened to catch Israel so off guard?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Oren, because what you're looking at here is this really small area of territory. It's so densely populated, as you mentioned earlier. But the fact of the matter is that the Palestinians, the Hamas guerrillas, were really looking at how to circumvent Israeli intelligence. They knew that they had to get off the phones. They knew they had to in essence, use couriers and other more primitive means to communicate with each other. And when they did that, they were able to, it looks like, prevent the Israelis from really learning what they were up to, and that, I think, gave them the element of surprise in this case.
You say primitive means, and yet Israel is known for its ability, frankly, its spying technology, whether that's from the air or signals interception. Was this Hamas simply going low-tech to beat Israel's ability to pick up on any of this? What must have been a large cell to carry this out?
Yeah, I think it was. And what's really interesting about this is the fact that, when you go into this area and you look at all of the different elements that are right here, you can see that Israel is really flanked by so many different rivals at this particular point in time. And former enemies, some of them are current enemies, and the very fact that they were able to do this, I think, indicates that they went low-tech in order to prevent high-tech means of detection. And that allowed them to go in and, in essence, take the Israelis by surprise in a way that they weren't expecting. And in many ways, you think of surprises as being something that you don't expect, but this is even more than that. It gets to a deeper level than that.
President Joe Biden warned other parties not to get involved in this conflict. What and who and where was he referring to with that comment as we look around the borders of the state of Israel?
So one of the key things, I think, one of the key players is right here in Lebanon. When you look at the forces that are at play here, you look at Hezbollah, which is backed by Iran, which is off the map on the other side here. You also look at forces in Syria. Many of them have previously gone after Israel as well. And then you look, of course, at the West Bank, which has the PLO, and you have the non-Hamas entities right there working in a way that can also array themselves against Israel and could potentially, in sympathy with Hamas, have an uprising here that could adversely affect everything that's going on in Israel proper.
Colonel Layton, thank you.
Oren and Colonel Layton, thank you so much for that. We are going to have much more on our breaking news straight ahead. CNN is on the ground in Israel. We're going to have a live report next.
Hi, it's Christina again. I'm here to tell you about an all-new special offer from my friends at Jacuzzi Bath Remodel that you don't want to miss. You already know, Jacuzzi has been making water feel great for more than 65 years. And now, they're bringing you this special TV offer. We're waiving all installation costs.
Equips all of the terrorist organizations outside of Israel, Hamas, the Islamic Jihad in Gaza, and Hezbollah in Lebanon, to name but a few. I am sure that they are rejoicing in the violence and the Israeli casualties as we speak, and I think that they're hoping to derail regional positive events of rapprochement between Israel and Saudi Arabia and anything else positive that may happen in the region. We understand that, and Israel understands clearly that what is at stake here is that there are Iranian proxy organizations at our borders that have been allowed to stockpile weapons, and what we have faced today is the result of those weapons being stockpiled on our borders in the hands of extremist organizations.
Lieutenant Colonel, before I let you go, Lieutenant Colonel, can you give us an update on the death toll and the number of wounded? How many Israelis have been killed and how many have been wounded and are in the hospitals right now?
It is unfortunately still a dynamic number, and we have crossed the number 200 of dead Israelis, and we have crossed the threshold of 1,100 Israelis hurt. And unfortunately, that is not the end of it. There will be additional figures coming out during the night and perhaps tomorrow. These are astronomical figures in Israeli perspective. These are numbers that we have never ever seen before, and they are unprecedented, and they will force an unprecedented response from Israel against the organization that did this to Israel, and that is first and foremost Hamas.
Yeah, from everything I'm hearing from various sources, this war between Israel and Hamas is only just beginning right now. Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Wolf.
Coming up, President Biden is vowing rock-solid and unwavering support for Israel. We'll get a live report from the White House when we come back.
Every day can be extraordinary with rich, creamy, delicious Baye total yogurt.
There are more ways than ever for identity thieves to steal your information. LifeLock alerts you and works to fix problems with a dedicated restoration specialist. Go to lifelock.com.
Technology is hurting our kids, so Gab created KidSafe Tech to protect kids from digital dangers. KidSafe Tech means no social media and more confidence. It means safe texting and peace of mind. Gab is KidSafe Tech.
Unnecessary action. Missing push. Unnecessary. Check reverse. Unnecessary. Time sheet correction. Unnecessary. Unentered sick call. Unnecessary. Go!
When you can take this phone, you'll be ready. Make the unnecessary unnecessary. Let your employees do their own payroll.
This country has never been so divided. Are you a licorice lover or hater? We at licorice.com have 50 plus gourmet flavors that you'll flip out over. Get some for yourself or a licorice lover in your life. Licorice lovers unite at licorice.com.
Don't worry.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't this great?
Yeah! Yeah. I can do a cartwheel in here.
Oh, hey! Would you like to join us?
No, we would love to join you.
If we want a more viable future for our kids, we need to find more sustainable ways of doing things. America's plastic makers are investing billions of dollars in new technologies and creating plastic products that are more recyclable, durable, and dependable. Our goal is a cleaner, healthier planet for generations to come. For a better tomorrow, we're focused on making plastics better today.
Feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign you're not getting enough daily fiber. Metamucil capsules can help. Psyllium fiber gels to trap and remove the waste that weighs you down, promoting digestive health for a better you. Metamucil capsules, an easy way to get more daily fiber.
Skating for over 45 years has taken a toll on my body. I take Cunol turmeric because it helps with healthy joints and inflammation support. Cunol, the brand I trust. Introducing Cunol Joint Health with turmeric, type 2 collagen, and more.
I tried everything for my stubborn dandruff, and then I found Nizoral. Nizoral works differently to get to the root cause of dandruff. In fact, its active ingredient is 10 times more effective at fighting fungus, the primary cause of dandruff. Say goodbye to stubborn dandruff with Nizoral.
We're following the breaking news, the shocking attacks by Hamas against Israel, which have already killed and wounded hundreds of Israelis. These are live pictures, by the way, from Gaza City coming in right now. I'm sure the Palestinians there are bracing for a massive Israeli retaliatory strike. Let's go to CNN senior White House correspondent Kayla Tausche, who's joining us right now from the White House. She has reaction from President Biden. Kayla, this outbreak and fighting is coming at a very sensitive time in U.S.-Israeli relations. What is the president saying, and what steps is the White House taking as this dramatic and very dangerous situation continues to unfold?
Well, Wolf, relations between the U.S. and Israel have been relatively strained in recent months as Prime Minister Netanyahu's governing coalition promoted a judicial reform package that the U.S. has staunchly opposed. But President Biden and Netanyahu have a very close personal relationship. They met in person last month at the UN General Assembly, and they spoke at length on the phone earlier this morning. And U.S. government officials are in touch with their Israeli counterparts at all levels and also in touch with various leaders across the Middle East as they try to figure out exactly what the administration's response and the support for Israel should look like at this moment. President Biden, though, for his part, called that support unwavering.
There's never justification for terrorist attacks. And my administration's support for Israel's security is rock solid and unwavering. Let me say this as clearly as I can. This is not a moment for any party hostile to Israel to exploit these attacks to seek advantage. The world is watching.
The outbreak also comes as the U.S. had been working behind the scenes on a diplomatic pact to normalize relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. That deal was expected to be months away, but it was expected to provide some sort of defense pact between Saudi Arabia and the U.S. as part of that, as well as some concessions that were expected to be offered to the Palestinians. There are questions about whether the proximity of such a deal could have sparked some urgency for the outbreak that we saw overnight, but all of those, Wolf, are still questions that the administration is trying to get answers to.
Yeah, lots of important questions that need answers. Kayla Tausche at the White House, thank you very much. I want to get analysis right now. I want to bring in the former U.S. ambassador to Israel, Edward Jerejian, former State Department Middle East negotiator, Aaron David Miller, and CNN Global Affairs analyst Susan Glasser. Susan, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his nation is now at war. This is truly a remarkable moment. Give us your sense.
Well, the scope and scale of this attack against civilians is absolutely breathtaking. Of course, people have been seeing these horrifying images all day. There will be more. The fighting appears to be ongoing, and it will have enormous repercussions, not only, I think, in Israel, where there are already many questions about the surprise attack, what kind of intelligence and military failure led to it. There were hours, it appears, before there was a response in some areas that came under attack. There are also repercussions here in Washington, not only this peace deal that the United States have been trying to broker between Saudi Arabia and Israel, the question of whether there would be renewed regional conflict, the question of what role, if any, Iran might have played in stoking or sponsoring this kind of attack. There's so many questions, but it's going to have repercussions, I fear, for a long, long time.
Ambassador Jerejian, the surprise attack by Hamas included the targeting of various Israeli civilians, men, women, and even children. Given everything we know so far, how do you expect Israel will respond and counter?
Well, this is such a major strategic failure, really, of Israel's deterrence policy toward or against Hamas and the Gaza Strip. Wolf, we've been following this cycles of violence for over 30 years, and we see that this incident is truly major. It's a bit of a game changer. I believe that the Israelis will attack in great force. But let me say this, I think Israel has great technological intelligence capabilities, but I think here we have a real failure of human intelligence, not really knowing what the intentions of the Hamas leadership are, or of those of Hezbollah on the north, which is really another danger zone that has to be watched very closely.
Yeah, southern Lebanon, they have thousands of rockets and missiles there as well. The Israelis are very concerned about what this situation could, how it could explode right now even further. Aaron David Miller, you've reported and covered on this region for so many years. Hamas claims it has taken dozens of Israelis hostage, kidnapped a whole bunch of Israeli military and civilian folks. President Biden says entire families were among those taken. How does this complicate Israel's response?
I think it introduces Wolf a measure of human and political and even security complexity into this equation. For years, the assumption has always been that the Israelis would not mount a major incursion into Gaza, land, sea, and air, in order to decapitate Hamas leadership and to, in their view, deal Hamas a blow from which it would not recover. I think the Israeli spokesman, at least 3 times during your questioning, laid the predicate for a new and even transformative set of Israeli tactics designed to do what they have not done, what they have been risk-averse in doing for decades. The level of casualties and the hostages, particularly the hostages, introduce a major constraint. And on one hand, it's conceivable that large numbers of Israeli hostages could produce an incentive for some sort of negotiation to get those people released. But Wolf, you recall In 2006, Gilad Shalit was taken prisoner by Hamas. In 2011, the Israelis engaged in an asymmetrical hostage exchange, 1,079 Palestinian prisoners for Shalit. I suspect that has got the redemption of Israeli citizens and soldiers in combat is a high priority for this country. And I suspect sooner or later you are going to have to see a negotiation. If in fact those large numbers of people, we don't know how many, are going to be released.
Yeah, this issue of these hostages being taken and brought to Gaza is a huge, huge problem, and I know it's dominating so much thinking in Israel right now. Everyone stay with us. We're going to continue our analysis. Up next, Israel is currently on the edge after a series of these deadly attacks from these Palestinian militants, Hamas, in Gaza. We're going to get reaction from the Pentagon, and I'll speak with former Defense Secretary William Cohen.
Your shipping manager left to find themselves, leaving you lost. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Indeed Instant Match instantly delivers quality candidates matching your job description. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
The first time you connected your GoDaddy website and your store was also the first time you realized.
Well, we can do anything.
Cheesecake cookies?
The Chucky.
Manage all your sales from one place with a partner that always puts you first. Start today at GoDaddy.com.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early, so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts, so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
She runs and plays like a puppy again.
His number 2's perfect. He's a brand new dog all in less than a year.
When people switch their dog's food from kibble to the farmer's dog, they often say that it feels like magic. But there's no magic involved. It's simply fresh meat and vegetables with all the nutrients dogs need, instead of dried pellets. Just food made for the health of dogs, delivered in packs portioned for your dog. It's amazing what real food can do.
Hold it!
Imagine a world with no drama.
I haven't signed Joey's card yet.
At 4imprint, finding the promotional products you need to create a memorable moment is an easy mission. Our expert team will take care of every detail to make your success a certainty. Take the drama out of ordering promotional products at 4imprint.com. 4imprint, for certain. Indulge in the creamy flavor of Bob Evans mashed potatoes 2-count single-serve cups. 2 individual servings of potatoes, milk, and butter. For a homemade taste you'll love. Ready in minutes. Bring home the perfectly sized comfort of Bob Evans today.
Does someone who threatens Putin's power ever die unintentionally in Russia?
I don't think so. He just leaves all this carnage in his wake.
Do you think he cares about that?
No, he doesn't.
Who is responsible for that image?
I take responsibilities for anything that happens in this city.
How dependent is the government on Elon Musk?
The answer to your question is, we are very, very beholden to Elon Musk.
The Source with Caitlin Collins, Monday at 9. When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
HomeGlow just cleaned my entire house for $19. No, seriously, $19. They showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using HomeGlow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
Guys, how frustrating is it to find a great pair of jeans? Too loose there? Too long there? Standard jeans use just 2 measurements, and Taylor Custom Jeans use 7 different measurements to give you the perfect fit. Your phone can measure you right now. M. Taylor on iOS or Android.
This is CNN, the world's news network.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
We only represent mesothelioma victims and their families. Call for a free book.
Call 800-282-4444 or go to Mesobook.com.
So war is clearly escalating right now. Let's get back to our breaking news coverage of Israel in a state of war after a series of very deadly attacks by Hamas across the country. I want to bring in CNN Pentagon correspondent Oren Lieberman right now. Oren, what is the Pentagon's view on how this fighting will unfold over the next few hours and days, potentially even weeks? Who knows?
First, let's be clear that the Pentagon statement and the statement from Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin makes it clear they believe it's more the latter of that. This is not playing out over hours, but over days and potentially weeks. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke with his Israeli counterpart, Yoav Gallant, to give U.S. support for Israel as this process plays out, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promising a prolonged campaign to deal with Hamas in Gaza after this terrorist attack. But how specifically this plays out remains an open question. Whether and how Israel will carry out a ground incursion, so far we have largely seen Israeli airstrikes, but there's an expectation, and even more than that, a promise that this will very much expand, and Israel's needs through that will become clear as the IDF's plans, as Israel's military plans play out here. What is clear to this point is that they were caught completely by surprise and were unable to stop it with the forces they had there. So whatever comes next, they'll have to bring in forces for whatever Netanyahu and the cabinet there decide to do to handle this and retaliate for it.
What is the likelihood that Israel might ask the United States for stockpile weapons that the U.S. stockpile, according to the weapons the U.S. stockpiles in Israel? What kind of military assistance would the Israelis be looking for?
This wasn't mentioned specifically, but both President Joe Biden and Austin seem to make clear that Israel will have access to these U.S. stockpiles in Israel if needed. In terms of what will be needed, so far we're seeing Israel carry out precision-guided attacks, so those sorts of bombs. If there's a ground incursion, you may see an Israeli need for artillery, tank shells, all of that could be requested and could be given very quickly by Biden and the White House in the case that Israel needs it.
Yeah, we'll watch to see what happens on that front. Oren Lieberman, our Pentagon correspondent, thank you. Let's discuss this conflict right now between Israel and Hamas and how it's unfolding with the former U.S. Defense Secretary William Cohen. Mr. Secretary, thanks very much for coming in. When Israel says all options are on the table, what are you bracing for?
It's going to be a very bloody war they're going to carry out. In the lyrics of the song, when there's blood in the water, what are you going to do? I think what you've seen now, Israel is going to respond violently and with hopefully proportionate response, but I doubt under the circumstances, given the amount of casualties they've suffered, the amount of people who've been taken hostage, I think it's going to be a rather overwhelming military response. The difficulty is in terms of how many innocent civilians they will carry out in that process. So Prime Minister Netanyahu has a real tough job right now in terms of satisfying the people of Israel that they are going to be safe going forward. They're pretty terrified right now, but he's got to reassure them that he's capable of marshaling the forces and organizing a way to carry out an effective response.
So I know that the Israelis will launch airstrikes against various Hamas targets in Gaza, but do you think the Israelis will actually move in on the ground and launch a ground invasion to try to take out these Hamas leaders?
Well, I think they'll be hesitant to do that. They will if they must as this goes on, but to put ground troops into Gaza would be very dangerous for those troops. They'd be walking into booby traps, other types of very difficult close combat situations with more of them being killed and more of them being taken hostage. So I think ground troops is going to be very difficult. On the other hand, if it's just artillery, he's going to kill a lot of innocent people as well as the terrorists themselves. So difficult choice for him.
This was a pretty sophisticated, multi-pronged attack by Hamas against various targets in Israel. It came from air, sea, and ground, and it was pretty sophisticated and came as a surprise to Israeli intelligence. A lot of us were surprised to see this unfold when we woke up this morning. Give us your sense. How much of an intelligence failure was this?
Well, we have to put it in the context. Overhead intelligence will not help under these circumstances because the Palestinians, terrorists at least, are off the grid. They're not communicating by cell phone. They are sending private messages. They're digging tunnels. So very hard for overhead intelligence or SIGINT to check that out. So they have a few people on the ground for fear that they would be captured and tortured. So it's difficult to say we've got this covered as far as intelligence. So I wouldn't say it's a failure. They obviously didn't anticipate this going to happen. They have moved forces from Gaza into the West Bank for another reason. So I would not label it a failure. I think they'll be seen as such. On the other hand, pretty tough to monitor people who are not talking on the open air.
Here's what jumps out at me. Hamas, this terrorist group that controls Gaza, managed to get thousands of rockets and missiles inside Gaza to launch them within a few hours against Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, other major cities in Israel right now. How did they manage to get all those missiles to come in from sea or on the ground?
Well, they can come in from the sea.
Usually there are Israeli ships that have patrolled that area.
Well, obviously they didn't prevent this. This is going to be a real part of the analysis of how this happened and why did it happen. I think the other problem is going to be is what does Netanyahu do? He's going to be under pressure to move further and further to the right, and that means that they will start taking more territory in the West Bank. And if that happens, you're going to see more countries involved against the Israelis. So we have to see how this plays out. But for the Israelis, a very difficult and dark day for them. It's going to be a very dark day for the Palestinians coming up.
So you agree with me, this war is only just beginning?
It's just beginning.
Yeah, it's going to be dangerous and very, very deadly. Mr. Secretary, thanks very much for coming in. The U.S. Secretary of State, by the way, Antony Blinken, will be joining CNN's Dana Bash tomorrow on State of the Union. That's at 9 a.m. and noon Eastern tomorrow, right here on CNN. Coming up, we're going to bring you the latest updates from the ground in Israel's war against Hamas. We'll have a live report from near the Gaza border. Stay with us. You're in the Situation.
CNN Heroes is brought to you by Servpro, the #1 choice in cleanup and restoration.
When you're the leader who's asked for cleanup and restoration, how do you make like it never even happened? Happen? But be prepared for anything!
Servpro, like it never even happened.
This is your season to smile with new dentures from Aspen Dental. To gather together and discover the moments that matter. To jump into the fun and join in the celebration. To help get you ready, your Aspen Dental denture team is celebrating 25 years of affordable care with an epic anniversary savings event. Don't miss enjoying a moment with fast repairs in our on-site labs and 20% off your custom dentures. Plus, we have a denture money-back guarantee so you can smile with confidence. Aspen Dental. Book today.
If you have moderate to severe Crohn's disease, Skyrizi is the first and only IL-23 inhibitor that can deliver clinical remission and endoscopic improvement.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to. Liver problems may occur in Crohn's disease.
Control of Crohn's means everything to me. Ask your gastroenterologist about Skyrizi. Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Life after student debt is within reach. Refi at SoFi.com. You could save thousands and get to your goals faster. SoFi, get your money right.
Yo.
This or that, this or that, this or that, this or that. You can do this, then you edgy that. You can do this, then you edgy that. You can do this, then you edgy that. You can do this, cause edgy's where it's at.
Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Get started today at Angie.com.
The middle child never knows the beauty of elbow room. Until now. 3-row Lexus TX.
My name is Marie. I'm 49 years old and I'm a business owner. I own a lemonade and ice cream shop in Florida. So I can feel and see that my lines have gotten deeper just from a year out in the sun. I'm still Marie, and I got Botox Cosmetic. I did not want a dramatic change. I wanted something subtle, and I'm really, really happy with the results. It's still me, but with fewer lines.
Botox Cosmetic is FDA approved to temporarily make frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better. The effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Do not receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow, eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Tell your doctor about your medical history, muscular nerve conditions, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Get what your is. Charger is.
We're following truly historic breaking news. At least 200 people are dead after a series of surprise attacks on Israel by Hamas militants in Gaza. These are pictures we're showing you of Hamas continuing to launch missiles and rockets toward Israel, but you see Israel's Iron Dome system hitting a lot of those rockets and preventing them from moving closer towards Israel. I want to bring back CNN international diplomatic editor Nick Robertson. He's right near the Israeli border with Gaza right now. Nick, we've seen these rockets going off in Gaza throughout many hours now. What are you seeing from where you are right now? You're much closer to the scene, obviously.
Yeah, Wolf, we're really getting a sense of just how active this military zone is in the dark behind me here. We can't go further down this highway. It's about 2.5 miles to Gaza. We can't go further down. It's an active military zone. The Israeli Defense Forces, as you were being told by the spokesman just earlier this hour, don't have full control over the area. I can hear a helicopter in the sky above me now, and we've been able to hear that helicopter coming in, getting close to Gaza, and then heavy machine gun fire from that helicopter fired presumably into Gaza or supporting Israeli Defense Forces on the ground in their ongoing operations at the moment. This is a very active and dynamic area. Again, that's why we cannot go further down the highway. We've also been able to hear fighter jets flying past occasionally and heavy explosions coming from the direction of Gaza. The Israeli Defense Forces say they are going to hit Hamas hard. What we are seeing perhaps early tonight is some of those first operations to begin at least to take full control back of Israeli territory, Wolf.
Nick Robertson, stick around. We're going to get back to you for more on the breaking news. Stay safe over there. Our coverage will continue. Our breaking news coverage will continue. I'll speak when we come back with the former head of Israel's intelligence service, the Mossad. Get his assessment of what's going on when we come back.
The boys. The Niners. This rivalry on Sunday night is Cowboys and Niners, baby. Better get your popcorn ready.
Sometimes it takes a different approach to imagine your future differently. With Capella University's game-changing FlexPath format, set your own deadlines and access coursework anytime.
Way back in 1982, we took care of about 40 kids and had to turn away over 250. It was the emotion of that moment that said, man, that just isn't fair. And I think it was at that moment that Operation Smile was born.
Every 3 minutes, a child is born with a cleft condition. Thousands are waiting for the cleft surgery and care your support gives. They need you. Give joy and a new smile. Scan the code or go online to give today.
Does your wife know you spend this much money?
You know, I've got to be honest, I don't think she's serious.
You spent over $600 on takeout?
I have a big family.
Also, why are you paying for Netflix twice?
Is this why people read these things?
Just get Rocket Money. It shows you all your expenses in one place and even tracks your subscriptions. The app can also help you make a budget that works for your income, and anytime you get close to your spending limits, it alerts you. That way, you won't end up spending like $800 some odd on takeout. Seriously, who does that? Just download Rocket Money today.
I was stuck. Unresolved depression symptoms were in my way. I needed more from my antidepressant. Vraylar helped give it a lift.
Adding Vraylar to an antidepressant is clinically proven to help relieve overall depression symptoms better than an antidepressant alone. And in Vraylar clinical studies, most saw no substantial impact on weight. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke, report unusual changes in behavior or suicidal thoughts. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults, report fever, stiff muscles, or confusion, as these may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, weight gain, and high cholesterol may occur. Movement dysfunction and restlessness are common side effects. Stomach and sleep issues, dizziness, increased appetite, and fatigue are also common. Side effects may not appear for several weeks.
I didn't have to change my treatment. I just gave it a lift.
Ask about Vraylar and learn how AbbVie can help you save.
We're not writers, but we help you shape your financial story. We're not an airline, but our network connects global businesses across nearly 160 markets. We're not a startup, but our innovation labs use new technologies to help keep your information secure. We're not architects, but we help build stronger communities. We're not just any bank, we are Citi.
Our mission here at CNN is that the news comes first. That's the promise of the Situation Room. We work as hard as we can to get the facts.
The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer, Monday at 6 on CNN.
Guys, how frustrating is it to find a great pair of jeans? Too tight here, too loose there, too long there? Standard jeans use just 2 measurements. Taylor Custom Jeans use 7 different measurements to give you the perfect fit. Your phone can measure you right now. Download the Taylor app on iOS or Android. Choose from hundreds of styles. Taylor measures you digitally and is 20% more accurate than a professional tailor. With free shipping and a money-back guarantee, get your new favorite pair of jeans today. Taylor, available on the Apple App Store or Android.
If you lived or worked at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina for at least 30 days from August 1953 through December 1987 and have been diagnosed with cancer, neurobehavioral effects, fertility issues, or more, you may qualify for financial compensation. A new law passed by Congress now allows veterans and survivors to seek damages for harm from exposure to contaminated water at Camp Lejeune. Call Saddle Rock Legal Group to discuss your case now.
Call 1-800-814-9977.
I'm Pete Montine at Reagan National Airport. This is CNN.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Page Publishing. Want to publish a book? We'll review your manuscript for free.
If you've written a book, Page Publishing can help you through the process. We cut through the confusion of the publishing world to make it easy for you.
Call 800-563-0741.
We're back with more breaking news. The massive and deadly Hamas raid on Israel. For more on what's going on, I'm joined now by Ephraim Halevi, a former head of Israel's intelligence service. Thanks so much for joining us. You were chief of Mossad, Israel's intelligence service. You've seen Israel under attack many times before. Have you ever seen an attack quite like this one?
No, I think this is a unique attack. We've had intelligence failures before, and we've been surprised. But this is the first time that the people from Gaza have been able to penetrate into Israel, deep into Israel, and to take control of villages in the south, not only bordering on the Gaza Strip, but to some extent also deeper in Israel and into cities quite north of those, in places along the seashore.
As you know, Hamas launched this major, fairly sophisticated attack on this, the 50th anniversary of the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Do you believe Israel's military and intelligence services missed some significant red flags in not understanding what was going on?
indeed. But the story of 1973 was different, because there we had a lead up to the war, and we had wrong assessments of what it is that the other side was going to do, if at all. In this case, we had no early warning of any kind, and it was a total surprise that the war broke out this morning.
What is the state of Israel's intelligence operations and its ability to monitor Hamas activities in Gaza right now, Mr. Halevi?
Well, they do have capabilities, obviously, but in this particular case, these capabilities failed them. I believe, though, that probably in the last few hours, certain efforts have been made to improve the capability of covering what is happening there, and also preparing for the counterattack, which will probably begin or has begun in the last few hours.
Give us your analysis, if you will, of the level of coordination and sophistication of this Hamas attack from Gaza into Israel, with rockets, a ground invasion using paragliders, speedboats to attack by sea, killing and kidnapping a lot of Israeli civilians and taking them into Gaza. Give us your sense.
Well, as an operation, it was highly successful, unfortunately. I think it was well coordinated. I think they were able to keep it secret, and we had no idea that this was being planned, and even in some cases probably they were able to have trial training, and we didn't have any inkling of what was going on, despite the fact that the coverage of the Gaza Strip by the intelligence capabilities we have was very, very, very high and very, I'd say, very successful in years gone by.
I think one of the major intelligence failures of the Israelis, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Halevi, is that Hamas managed to get into Gaza thousands of rockets and missiles, which they're now launching against various targets in Israel. Israel surrounds the Gaza Strip. How did they manage to do this?
Well, they fired these missiles in quantities we have never seen before. The number of missiles they have launched within less than 24 hours is over 3,000. This is beyond imagination from our point of view. And we didn't know, and they had this quantity of missiles, and we certainly didn't expect that they would be as effective as they were today.
But how did they get them into Gaza, all these missiles?
I think many of them were manufactured by themselves. They have manufacturing capabilities in the Gaza Strip. Maybe they got a few of them from Iran, and that was smuggled in through the sea. But basically speaking, it's the self-production that they have within the Gaza Strip.
Ephraim Halevi, thanks so much for joining us. We'll continue this conversation down the road. We have a lot more news coming up. We're going to go live to Israel for more on all the breaking news. The deadly, unprecedented Hamas attack. We'll be right back.
Impact Your World is brought to you by We Are 8. Social media for the love of people and planet. Now go to CNN.com/ImpactYourWorld to see ordinary people doing great humanitarian work and learn how you can help.
Social media has changed us, but our generation is waking up. We Are 8 is our force for change, where authenticity is more important than trends, and positivity is the only influence, where we control what feeds our mind, not some algorithm. And the real game changer? On 8, brands pay you and charities to drive positive change. So join us on We Are 8 and share the love with people and our planet.
ADT Self-Setup, featuring Google Nest products. Now you can easily install your system that's backed by ADT's 24/7 monitoring with no long-term contracts. so you have a home with no worries. Brought to you by ADT.
Mac and cheese lovers rejoice. Dive into the melty, gooey goodness of Bob Evans mac and cheese. Tender macaroni smothered in real cheese. Ready in just minutes with the delicious taste Bob Evans is known for. Bring home the warm, gooey goodness of mac and cheese today.
Viruses and bacteria float all around us. Unlike air fresheners, only new Lysol Air Sanitizer kills 99.9% of viruses and bacteria in the air. Because scent can't sanitize, Lysol can.
I told myself I was okay with my moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis symptoms.
With my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. But just okay isn't okay.
And I was done settling.
If you still have symptoms after a TNF blocker like Humira or Enbrel, Rinvoq is different and may help. Rinvoq is a once-daily pill that can dramatically relieve RA and PSA symptoms, including fatigue for some. It can stop joint damage, and in PSA, can leave skin clear or almost clear.
Rinvoq can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB, serious infections and blood clots, some fatal, cancers including lymphoma and skin cancer, death, heart attack, stroke, and tears in the stomach or intestines occurred. People 50 and older with at least one heart disease risk factor have higher risks. Don't take if allergic to Rinvoq, as serious reactions can occur. Tell your doctor if you are or may become pregnant.
Done settling?
Ask your rheumatologist for Rinvoq.
And take back what's yours.
Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Stop starving your skin and start feeding it True Skin Vitamin C Serum. True Skin has what skin craves. A different form of vitamin C that's gentle on skin and effective until the last drop. With nutrient-rich blends to keep skin glowing. True Skin. Get what your skin truly craves.
To give your teeth a dentist clean feeling, start with a round brush head. Add power, and you've got Oral-B. Round cleans better by surrounding each tooth to remove 100% more plaque for a superior clean. Oral-B. Brush like a pro.
Does someone who threatens Putin's power ever die unintentionally in Russia?
I don't think so. He just leaves all this carnage in his wake.
Do you think he cares about that?
No, he doesn't.
Who is responsible for that image?
I take responsibilities for anything that happens in this city.
How dependent is the government on Elon Musk?
The answer to your question is, we are very, very beholden to Elon Musk.
The Source with Caitlin Collins, Monday at 9.
What? I lived with schizophrenia since age 20, and I found it very difficult throughout the years to find a meaningful career. Make a Change Canada helped me recognize the options I had with their any career services, including website and computer training. Now, I'm a mental illness Islamic motivational speaker.
You can help more people like Hakeem realize their full potential. To donate, visit MakeAChangeCanada.com. Make a Change Canada is an accredited Canadian charitable organization.
Patented key ingredient clinically researched to help boost your free testosterone levels. To help you feel stronger, leaner, with more energy and drive. More passion, too.
Here, try a bottle. And trust me, she'll like it too.
Text FIXED to 231231 to get a complimentary sample of Nugenix Total T. Text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our most powerful fat incinerator ever. Absolutely free. That's FIXED to 231231.
I'm Warren Lieberman at the Pentagon, and this is CNN. Happening now, breaking news, shocking scenes out of Israel and Gaza as Hamas launches a surprise attack, killing at least 200 Israelis. The terror group catching Israel off guard as fighters stormed across the Gaza border and launched more than 2,000 rockets towards Israel. A spokesman for the Israel Defense Forces tells me fighting is ongoing right now and that Israeli troops still don't have full control over their territory. We want to welcome our viewers here in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer, and this is a special edition of the Situation Room, Israel at War.
This is CNN Breaking News.
And we begin this hour with the breaking news out of Israel. Hamas militants pouring across the Gaza border in a deadly surprise attack. Listen to one Israeli woman's terrifying first-hand account of the raid.
Suddenly out of nowhere, shots are coming in. They started shooting in every direction, and I took the car keys and just drove and started moving forward to get out of the shots. And at some point they overtook us. We were overtaken by the shooters. They started shooting at our vehicles. We got out of the vehicles. I didn't keep driving. We took cover.
CNN's Nick Robertson is on the ground for us in Israel, right near the Gaza border. Nick, so far, what have you seen tonight?
Well, this is the point where that area of Israel that the defense forces are still going through, confronting the Hamas militants, is taking place. We can hear it, we can see it, and about 10 or 15 minutes ago we saw a reinforcement of military come down this road, stop at the checkpoint here, get clearance, and then go on further towards Gaza. We're about 2.5 miles from the northern end of the Gaza Strip here. You can hear maybe a helicopter above me. That's become an increasingly dominant sound here in the night sky. It's hard to see, but then at times it will open up with its heavy machine gun, and that does appear to be in support of those Israeli troops who are on the ground still confronting those militants, and that is going on within our earshot, just over there. We're hearing over this way out towards the sea, heading towards Gaza. That way, we're hearing fighter jets fly over. We're seeing flashes on the horizon. Just heard a couple of big detonations there. Detonations that appear to be coming from Gaza or around Gaza, where the Israeli Defense Forces are still confronting those Hamas militants. A priority for the government tonight is take back control of this area here around Gaza. Seal off Gaza. Make sure that they are no more Hamas militants in that area. And what we're seeing here, in essence, we're hearing and seeing the battle play out over there, the shelling in Gaza, and reinforcements coming in down the highway here, Wolf.
Nick, what else do you expect to see tonight?
I think realistically, there will be an increase. This is what the Israeli Defense Force spokesman was saying just earlier on. Expect that the attacks to ramp up, the response to ramp up through the night. I think we'll expect to see more Israeli Defense Forces arriving here, going down towards Gaza. Unlikely to hear until those Hamas militants are killed or back inside Gaza. We will continue to hear the helicopter in the sky above us, the gunship, the helicopter gunship firing its heavy machine guns. It's going to be a very active and fluid night down here, Wolf.
Do you get the sense, Nick, as I do, that this is going to be a protracted fight, that this war, really for all practical purposes, is only just beginning?
Very much so, Wolf. We both know we've been covering these sorts of situations here in Israel, other countries, for many, many years together. It takes time for the government to make its decisions, for the military to enact that, to mobilize the reservists, to get all the heavy military hardware required for a potential incursion, which is the expectation for what will happen in Gaza. When that happens, it will be coming down roads like this here. But it will probably take at least several days for that flow of military equipment and the support for it, the fuel, the ammunition, to get it all here in place, to get the plans mapped out, and for the Israeli Defense Force and Israel's intelligence services to map out as precisely as they can where Hamas is, where any hostages are being held, and how the recovery of those hostages might take place. None of those sorts of decisions can happen quickly, but from what we're seeing, the movement of troops coming down tonight, already some decisions have been taken place. Heavy equipment, we haven't seen that arriving yet, Wolf.
Nick Robertson in Zakim, Israel, right outside of Gaza. Stay safe over there, Nick. We'll get back to you later this hour. Here in Washington, the Biden administration is condemning the attacks and reaffirming its strong support for Israel. I'm joined now by CNN senior White House correspondent Kayla Tausche, who has a reaction from President Biden. Kayla, what are sources telling you, first of all, about the conversations that are happening right now over at the White House and across, indeed, the U.S. government?
Wolf, the White House has been working around the clock to assess the scope of Israel's needs as it responds to this situation, which officials are calling appalling and unprecedented. A senior administration official says this evening that the focus is on keeping the violence contained and on assessing what military aid is needed, with conversations up and down the military chain to that effect, and that there could be an announcement as soon as tomorrow. But this official says that there are unique challenges posed by the fact that the U.S. currently lacks a Speaker of the House of Representatives, as well as a permanent ambassador to Israel, and that could provide some obstacles in providing timely and fulsome support to the Israelis. But President Biden, in no uncertain terms earlier today, said that that support from the U.S. will be unwavering.
Do you have a number, Lieutenant Colonel, of how many Israelis?
I believe we have the wrong soundbite there, Wolf, but President Biden said that, the U.S. will provide rock-solid support to Israel. It will be unwavering. And he also had a message to the rest of the world saying this is not a moment for any party hostile to Israel to exploit these attacks to seek advantage. And the president says the world is watching. And while he didn't specify the target of that message specifically, it was seen as a shot across the bow to Iran. Now, a senior administration official just this evening said that there's no indication at this stage that Iran was directly involved in the violence overnight, although the administration says that Iran's role as a longtime benefactor of Hamas cannot be ignored.
Kayla Tausche at the White House, thank you very, very much. Let's discuss what's going on. Joining us now, CNN national security analyst Beth Sanner, CNN political and national security analyst David Sanger, and a contributing correspondent for Axios, Barak Ravid. Barak, this was clearly a sophisticated, multi-pronged surprise attack by Hamas. How unprecedented was today's assault?
Well, Wolf, I think it is the most deadly invasion Israel has endured since the 1973 Yom Kippur War. I guess you know Israel very well, and I guess that when you saw those pictures of what was going on inside Israel, you couldn't believe your own eyes. And I think that many people around the world are watching what was going on, and they just couldn't believe that Israel was that surprised of this huge attack by Hamas, with some assessments say 1,000 Hamas operatives entered Israel from the border with Gaza and just swarmed into Israel, and some of them managed to reach 5 miles into Israel, into whole cities, driving around those cities with pickup trucks, shooting everybody they see. This is something I think that is shocking for many Israelis, and will have at least the same ramification as the Yom Kippur War domestically, maybe even more.
Yeah, and kidnapping a lot of Israelis, men, women, and children, and bringing them back to Gaza. Very, very serious development as well. Beth, let me get your reaction to what an IDF spokesperson told me here in the Situation Room about the hostage situation that has now developed. Watch and listen to this. Do you have a number, Lieutenant Colonel, of how many Israelis, men, women, and children for that matter, have been kidnapped by Hamas and taken from inside Israel to Gaza?
Yeah, I can say that it is a significant number. I cannot yet say the official number, but I can say that it is unfortunately a significant number of both Israeli civilians and military personnel, some of them alive, some of them presumed not to be alive. It's an extremely delicate situation. It is unprecedented in our history that we have so many Israeli nationals in the hands of a terrorist organization.
So, Beth, what's your reaction, and what kind of impact do you see this having?
Well, I think it is a totally unprecedented, and it's going to lead to Israel having to take actions against Gaza that they really haven't wanted to take in the past. In the past, they haven't wanted to go in with ground troops, but now that you have hostages, I kind of feel that, first, this was clearly planned. You don't take that many hostages just, by happenstance. This is part of what Hamas wants, and I think it's going to drive the Israelis to do a ground operation, and then I think we're really, again, looking at a real risk of an escalation of this war, to include maybe Hezbollah coming in with attacks from the north, as they have warned.
Yeah, that's what Israelis are clearly concerned about as well. David, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is warning that Israel will, quote, exact a huge price from the enemy, a huge price from the enemy. What do you anticipate that will be?
Well, Wolf, I think the big question is, do they go do a ground operation to go into the Gaza? Something that, as Beth pointed out, they have been hesitant to do because once you're in, obviously, then you run into all of the problems that we've seen happen time and again with occupation forces. It was interesting that when we got a briefing from a senior administration official just a few minutes ago, they would not take a position on whether or not the U.S. would support a ground operation into the Gaza. They said they obviously are 100% behind the Israelis. They will provide the Israelis with enhanced intelligence. Sounds like tomorrow they're going to be announcing, making some other defensive-related announcements. But this question is a very big one, Wolf, because you could imagine a situation in which President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu are divided on this. It's going to be President Biden's position, I suspect, fairly quickly, that they need to de-escalate and, calm things down. And yet, Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to want to reestablish deterrence. And clearly, deterrence failed here, along with the intelligence failure. So I think we could see the U.S. and Israel differ on the tactic of where to take this next.
Interesting indeed. Barak Ravid, is this, from your perspective, and you're an expert on this area, is this the biggest intelligence failure in the history of Israel?
No doubt. I think it's clear to everybody. Gaza is a small place. It's right around the corner for Israel. It's not something that is, thousands of miles away. The Israeli intelligence is watching Gaza all the time. It built a technological fence around Gaza. Exactly for that kind of a scenario, it all failed. Nobody had a clue. There was no early warning. And I think it also shows something about where the Israeli government and the Israeli military attention was in the last 9 months. It was not in Gaza. It was not even in Iran. It was all domestically in the domestic crisis over the judicial overhaul. And I think that what we see now is one of the results of the domestic crisis Israel was engulfed in for the last few months. And I think that Hamas saw what was going on and decided to take advantage.
Interesting indeed. Beth, Israel, as we all know, has a very sophisticated air defense system called the Iron Dome. Why did this system fail to protect the country today?
I think it's just volume. It overwhelmed the system. That number and that, where they fired, I think it was very, very carefully planned. And Barak's point, it wasn't just an intelligence failure, it was also a security failure. All those early warning systems also failed. And I think it goes beyond Gaza, because we know that Iran has been meeting with Hezbollah and Hamas for months, since last April, and doing a lot of joint planning, and specifically regarding Israel. So there should have been more information about this, and I think that there is going to be quite a bit of soul searching once there's enough room to breathe after this incredible challenge is passed.
A major challenge indeed. David, do you think an IDF assault into Gaza right now could spark even more attacks on Israel by Hamas?
Well, it could spark them by Hamas. It could bring Hezbollah in from the north. It could bring
You never should have let your guard down, Israel. You never should have let your guard down, Israel. I know you're doing the best that you thought you could, but you let your guard down. Is that understood? They got through, now they're ravaging your country, and you gotta put up a fight. Yes, that's right. You never should have let down your guard. Never should have. let down your guard. Well, listen to what he's saying. He's got wisdom. Let's listen now.
But not only has this current government been focused on the judicial reform, it's also been focused on the expansion of settlements elsewhere in the country. And so there's going to be, I suspect, a lot of soul searching over the question of whether they were looking in the wrong place. And my guess is there's going to have to be some kind of commission, an equivalent to our 9/11 commission, that asks the question, how could you have spent so much money, so much time over the past number of years and been so taken by surprise?
Excellent analysis indeed. Everyone, thank you very, very much.